Just a reminder, Doctor, you're still under oath.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I take off the mask.
Please.
You have a seat now?
You may.
Doctor, turning your attention back to Exhibit 943 and focusing on the restraint on the ground.
Yes.
You were focused on the first 5 minutes and 3 seconds, in particular, that Mr. Chauvin was applying his weight to Mr. Floyd's neck.
Correct.
And why was the time period after the first 5 minutes and 3 seconds less significant to you?
Because at that point where he extended his leg, that we see happening, at the point we see that happening is at 24:21. That is when he has suffered brain injury. We see, and we can tell from the movement of his leg, that the level of oxygen in his brain has caused what we call a myoclonic seizure type activity. They're just medical terms, but basically it means that he has kicked out his leg in an extension form, that he has straightened out his leg. And that is something we see as clinicians in patients when they suffer brain injury as a result of a low level of oxygen.
We'll talk about that more in a moment, Dr. Tobin. But is it significant to you whether Mr. Chauvin moved his knee off of Mr. Floyd's neck after Mr. Floyd was unconscious?
No, the movement happens around at different times, but obviously the key thing is everything up to the time that we see the hypoxia, the brain injury that's occurring, and where Officer Chauvin moved his knee after that really is not going to have a material impact on the case.
Would you help the ladies and gentlemen of the jury understand that if Mr. Chauvin is applying pressure on the side of the neck, as we see here in Exhibit 943, how does that translate into narrowing of the hypopharynx?
Again, it's going to depend on what is the orientation of Officer Chauvin's body, what is the orientation of his leg, and then also in particular into what is the orientation of Mr. Floyd. Where exactly is the orientation of Mr. Floyd's head? Because if it's the nuchal ligament is underneath Officer Chauvin's knee, there's going to be very little compression of the hypopharynx in this region. Then if it moves to the side and Officer Chauvin's weight is coming down on the side of Mr. Floyd's neck, then you're going to get huge compression of the hypopharynx.
And again, looking at Exhibit 943 and focusing on the first 5 minutes, was his knee overarchingly on the side, or was it on the back of the neck?
For the first 5 minutes, the left knee is on the neck virtually all of the time. The right knee, by my calculation, the right knee is on his back 57% of the time. The reason I can't say that it's on 100% is for the most of that other time I don't get a good view. The cameras move around, it's the body cameras, and so I can't see it. But for that period of time, the crucial period of time of the 5 minutes and 3 seconds, I can see Officer Chauvin's knee on his back for over 57% of the time.
Let's talk about the third mechanism, the prone position. Would the fact of Mr. Floyd being placed in the prone position also had an impact on the narrowing of the hypopharynx?
Yes, placing him on the prone position has several different effects, but particularly it also causes narrowing of the hypopharynx, among other things that the prone position does.
Is there a concept in physiology referred to as lung volumes?
Yes, there are.
What is that? What does that refer to?
That's just the way that we lung specialists, we measure how big is the size of the lung in different patients, and we quantify out in different areas, what level of the lung there is, whether it is different segments of the lung behave in different ways.
Do you have an illustration you brought to help us better understand this concept?
Yes, I have.
I'm going to show you what is marked as Exhibit 929 and have you first just identify it.
Yes, I identify 929.
What is it?
This is it shows you lung function and it shows you tidal volume.
And is it an accurate illustration
Yes,
of
it
lung function and tidal volume?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I offer Exhibit 929.
Any objection? 929 is received.
All right, so if we could start at the beginning of it, Mr. Altese.
So do I go ahead and describe?
Yes, would you please?
Yep.
Hold on.
Oh,
Also, let's not talk over each other. We're getting into that bad habit. So, if you could ask the question again, Mr. Blackwell, I forgot.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm just going to ask you, Dr. Tobin, if you would explain to us what we see in Exhibit 929.
yes. We're looking here at the lung inside the chest. The chest is in gray, and then we see the lung inside it, and surrounding it is the pleural space. And we're seeing that as the you were looking at breath going in and out, it generates a tidal volume. The tidal volume is shown as a waveform down at the bottom, and so that's what happens in somebody with regular breathing.
All right, let's see if we can get our tidal volumes to tide.
So here you can see that the chest is expanding. Like on the front, you're seeing the pump handle action of the chest. And then with each breath, you can see air going into the lung, and that produces the tidal breath. So this is the tidal volume. And then on exhalation, it's going back out.
Dr. Tobin, is there a standard or normal size of breath?
Yes, there is. In virtually all adult people, it's about 400 cc's is the size of a tidal volume.
Same for men and women?
Same for men and women, and it's the same for teenagers and grandparents.
So can lung volumes be calculated?
Yes, then you can calculate all further additional lung volumes in addition.
Did you actually do a calculation for Mr. Floyd's lung volume?
Yes, I calculated out his lung volumes precisely based on his age, his sex, and his height.
I want to show you what's marked as Exhibit 939 and tell me if this reflects your calculation.
Yes.
I said 939 is 930, Exhibit 930. So would using this be helpful to explain your testimony?
Yes, it would.
So, Your Honor, I want to offer Exhibit 930.
Any objection? 930 is received.
Okay, so these are the lung volumes in Mr. Floyd while he's sitting on the sidewalk. And the key lung volume that we're going to be focusing on is the EELV. That's the end expiratory lung volume. And that becomes crucially important in understanding what happened to Mr. Floyd. And I calculate out his EELV to be 3,840, and that's what it's shown there by the horizontal purple line. Sitting on top of that then is the size of each breath, and then underneath the purple area is the residual volume. The residual volume is when you blow all the air out of your lung, and after you're finished blowing, you can't blow any more out. That's the air that's still left inside your chest, is the residual volume. And that in Mr. Floyd is 2 liters and 300 cc's, 2300. That's included in the ELV. The ELV is everything below that horizontal purple line. So the ELV sitting upright is 3840. We also see on
So,
this
Doctor,
slide.
if I could stop you for just 1 second, and to help us understand better the end expiratory lung volume, the EELV, would that be commonly referred to as oxygen reserves?
That it's also where your main oxygen stores are in the body, are contained within your EELV. This is where you store your oxygen reserves.
So for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's true that not all the air you breathe in is exhaled out.
No. Yes, I mean, because the ELV is basically the volume that's in your lung in between each breath. So when you are breathing in and out, when you're